Hello and welcome to the Elsa B. Smith Show. My guest today is Linda Belcher. Linda is a systematic kinesiologist and a tutor working in Sussex in England. She's always had an interest in esoteric, mystical and subtle energies and found her way to kinesiology whilst in a very stressful job in HR. After receiving some successful treatments, she took the opportunity to undertake the professional training course and change careers. She takes a multidisciplinary approach to treatments and she incorporates reflexology, Reiki and Swedish massage where appropriate. So, Linda, how did you get into working with kinesiology?
Okay, so as you've just said, I was working in an HR department in a very stressful environment in the corporate world. And I think during one of my very rare lunch breaks, I was walking down the high street and was given either a leaflet or one of those magazines or something, I can't quite remember. But I do remember seeing the advert that said, are you tired all the time? Are you stressed? Are you having trouble sleeping? Do you have gut problems? And a whole list of other things. And I kind of went down that list and ticked them all. And it just said, try kinesiology for yourself. And so I just phoned up and made an appointment and had a few sessions which helped me enormously. And then a few years later, I was made redundant and decided to take a few months off work. And that's when I saw that there was a foundation course starting that very month. So I signed up for that foundation course and took it from there.
Okay. And then you moved into, you were trained immediately in systematic kinesiology.
Yeah, I trained from the beginning in systematic kinesiology. There are different modalities connected with kinesiology. So, for example, there is health kinesiology. I think there's 3 in 1. There's PKP. Systematic kinesiology is based very much on applied kinesiology that was started by George Goodhart, who was an American chiropractor.
Yeah.
And so that's the brand of kinesiology that I use.
Okay. And why do you call it systematic kinesiology? That to me implies there's some sort of system behind it.
There are systems, there are processes that you can follow. Obviously, the most important thing of all is the muscle test, that you're doing the muscle test correctly. But of course, we're not robots. And when people come to see us, they're coming to see a human being. And so we all do really generate our own way of working. However, the term systematic is used because in applied kinesiology, it can only be, that terminology, applied kinesiology, can only be used by chiropractors or the medical profession. So we just use the term systematic kinesiology. And basically what we're doing is testing a range of muscles. There's 42 muscles that we have as a standard. And each of those muscles relates to an organ and to a Chinese meridian circuit. And so by testing the muscles that relate to those circuits, we're not testing the individual organ. We're not looking for disease as such, but we're looking to find where there's imbalance or maybe blockages in the energy system and then try to link that all together. So we're looking very much at the whole person rather than a specific disease, if that makes sense.
Okay. You mentioned that the meridians and the organs are related. Can you explain a bit more around that?
Okay. So, for example, the pectoralis muscle here relates to the stomach meridian and the stomach organ. So, if you test the pectoralis major muscle and the muscle can't withstand the pressure, then it indicates that there's some imbalance in that circuit, which relates to the stomach. So it doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with the stomach. It just means there's an imbalance in that circuit. And we use an approach that looks at 4 different realms. So there's the emotional realm. There's the chemical and the nutritional realm, the physical and the structural realm, and then electromagnetic. So that muscle could be what we call weak or spongy because of any one of those 4 reasons. And usually because there is a combination. It's never usually just one thing. So yes, it could be a physical injury. You could have maybe, walked into a door or something and actually injured the muscle itself. Or if someone has come to you for stomach complaints and gut issues, it would give you an indication that that muscle could then be used to try and find what would help that person with their gut and their stomach issues. And then we can combine all of those different elements of the emotion, chemical, physical and electromagnetic to take a totally holistic approach to the individual.
Okay. You mentioned elements. Do you also use this the 5-element system, the Chinese 5-element system? And if so, which elements do you actually use?
We do use Chinese 5 elements: fire, earth, water, wood. Going around the circuit. What did I say? Fire, earth, water, wood, and metal.
Okay.
So within that system, we can also link in specific emotions that might relate to that person's imbalance.
Okay, that's interesting because in Feng Shui it's fire, earth, air, water, and fire, earth, air, water, and Qi. But you actually use wood and metal. That's interesting.
Yeah. So on each of those elements, you have the yin and the yang meridians. So, for example, on the earth element, you have stomach and spleen.
Yeah.
So you've always got the yin and the yang.
Yeah. Okay. And all of these muscles are mapped like to different organs, like reflexology points. Is that how it all fits together?
The reflexology points on the feet do relate to the organs, and obviously there are meridian points. There are meridian end points on the feet, beginning and end points on the feet also. So I am a reflexologist also, so I can link, as well as just the reflexology foot points, I can use the meridian points and stimulate those at the same time.
Okay. When people come to you, which issues do they present with most?
For me personally, I seem to attract people with anxiety, depression, phobic kind of problems, so emotional issues, but also stomach and gut problems are very, very common, and people that are just tired all the time and don't quite know why. So that's who I attract. But kinesiology is so wide-ranging that it can actually address, although we're not treating disease, it can actually address all elements of people's health. And sometimes you can find apparently unrelated things that seem quite bizarre. So, for example, not eating strawberries and that improving the skin, for argument's sake, if somebody's got a sensitivity. So it's always, I always love it because if I get a questionnaire beforehand of somebody's complaints and why they're coming to see you, obviously you form a view of what you're going to look at. But when none of that seems to work out and you've really got to start looking at apparently unrelated things, that's what I love so much, is it's like completing a puzzle. In a sense, because everything is linked. And so somebody's ill health can also be due in part to a long forgotten emotion or something that they don't appear to think is linked, but we can always verify that by means of the muscle test.
It's fascinating that your muscles can actually identify emotional issues.
Yeah, and it's quite simply done, because if you've got what we call a strong indicator muscle to start with, so the muscles are nice and strong, they can withstand the pressure, then you can ask somebody to think about or verbalise a problem in their lives or something that's happened to them. It doesn't have to be a major trauma. And then if while they're thinking about that and you retest the muscle and then it goes weak, that shows you that there is a link, if you like, between that muscle and meridian and that particular emotion. And if there isn't a link, it doesn't mean that that person's emotion isn't relevant at all. in their lives. It just means it's not relevant to that particular circuit.
And how long does it take you to see the results?
Or how long's a piece of string, really? It depends how long somebody's been suffering in the first place. It depends how much they're prepared to do for themselves to help. To some degree, it depends how they can afford treatment. So you always have to weigh up whether you feel it's important for them to have another treatment, say in a week's time, or whether it's more important for them to have some supplements or maybe some batch flower remedies and leave the further treatment for 2 or 3 weeks. So generally for people, we can either see results in the first session or after maybe 2 or 3. And people, the best clients are those who come for one specific problem, and then the body is a bit like layers of an onion. You start to uncover some other things, and then they can fine-tune their health. So they come back for regular maintenance or MOT sessions, maybe every 3 to 6 months.
Now, I have seen people actually writing words on a little piece of paper and using those little pieces of paper to test the muscle strength. Is that what you do?
I don't know. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, I think as a practitioner, you have to be comfortable with what it is you're doing. And although I can't necessarily explain everything that I do, I can't necessarily always explain why something's working. I have to feel comfortable in my own mind that I'm not leading someone up the garden path, if you like.
Yeah.
So we do have a range of ways to check what we're testing ourselves, because we're not infallible. When I'm teaching, I always try to stress that there's different ways to skin a cat, or there's different ways to complete a jigsaw puzzle. You know, some people go around the edge, some people start from one corner and work their way in. So there's many different approaches. But for me, writing on bits of paper, I don't know, I would do it, I guess, at a push if I had to. But I prefer to use real supplements, real batch flowers, real food if I'm testing food, or homeopathic vials, or somebody thinking about something rather than writing on a bit of paper. But I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not for me.
No, it's I was just asking that because that's how I first saw kinesiology being demonstrated. Which brings me to my next question. What you're doing is all about meridian lines, it's about the elements, it's all about invisible stuff that you have to kind of imagine to make it work.
Yeah.
And I have seen people being healed completely. I have seen people where this kind of healing makes no difference whatsoever. So my question is, to what extent does belief, faith, have an impact on the healing that can come from this?
I think if you have a client who believes it will work and has that positive attitude and is willing to try and accept that you're not a witch with a magic wand, and that they're prepared to actually have some input into their health and take some responsibility, then you will get much better results.
Yeah.
However, I've also had some very sceptical people come and visit me, either because they've been sent by their other half, or because I've maybe seen them in holistic fairs, and they've always been astounded by the results. So yes, I do think there is a huge impact that the mind will play. If you want to get better, then that does play a large part. I don't think you can deny that. But then I don't think that's necessarily wrong either if someone's got a strong belief system. Because I think that the NHS, for example, would do very well to explore the placebo effect. If there is a placebo effect, then why not use it?
Indeed, and save a lot of money.
You know, it could save a lot of money, and it shows how powerful the mind is.
And it would be a huge education for people who believe that only medication with side effects can provide a cure.
Yeah, medication's got its place. Of course it has.
Of course. If I have a broken leg, I will definitely prefer an orthopedic surgeon in the first place.
Absolutely, but then you can also do work with whichever practitioner or discipline you want to address the emotion behind that injury.
Indeed.
And also use different ointments and creams and supplements to help it heal and repair better in the longer term.
Indeed.
So that your body's cellular memory doesn't hold negative attachment every time you then are in a position or in the same position as you did when you broke your leg.
Goodness, yeah, I can associate with that. I broke my leg many years ago, and it took me 4 months to get back to walking again, and I was terrified of walking after 3 months in plaster. So I could have done with that. I just had to struggle through it on my own. Now, without giving away any client confidentiality, what are the biggest successes you've actually experienced in your practice?
I've dealt with lots of phobias that have been very impactful on people's lives. So people that wouldn't drive on their own, for example. I had a client who had extreme anxiety. If you can find in your first session a food that somebody's intolerant to, and it doesn't, I mean, everybody thinks of wheat and dairy, but if you can find a food that somebody is related to, for example, I had a client who had been told that she was celiac, even though the results hadn't come through. And so she'd been avoiding products with wheat in and buying wheat-free products off the shelf. And her sensitivity that showed was rice. And of course, all of the wheat-free products, or most of the wheat-free products that you buy in the supermarket, use white rice flour.
Yeah.
So she'd been eating the very thing that had actually been causing the majority of her problems.
Yeah.
And when she stopped the rice, within just a couple of weeks, probably not even that, she was just so much better. I would say probably 80% there. So that's always very gratifying, and that's kind of simple, if you like. It's a simple approach. But the more rewarding ones, in a sense, are the ones where you build a relationship and you take a while to uncover the layers of somebody's illness and establish long buried links, if you like, to their belief systems about themselves. That's what I enjoy the most.
Interesting. And you mentioned, well, no, you didn't mention that. I'm asking it. What cannot be healed by kinesiology? You did indicate that you can deal with emotional issues, with nutritional issues. What can you not address?
I think that's quite difficult to answer. I would never claim that I could cure cancer. I wouldn't say that I could cure or treat hepatitis or any other major disease. However, that's not to say that different approaches that we don't yet understand wouldn't be able to eliminate cancer from somebody's body. So that may not necessarily even be the kinesiology. It would be a range of different approaches, such as diet, supplements, and approach again to emotional stress. So that would be kinesiology using the different techniques that may help that particular individual, but I would never make a claim that I could cure cancer. But then I could help that particular individual maybe deal with the all the peripheries of it, and so get themselves in a stronger place to actually fight through a medical intervention, if necessary, their illness. Because an illness is never just one thing; it's always a composite of whatever has gone before. So I wouldn't ever stop somebody coming to see me for treatment and say, "Well, I can't help you with that." But I would make it quite clear, and also legally, we wouldn't be allowed to make that sort of claim, quite rightly.
Indeed.
So I would say it could help, because we're not treating the disease, we're looking at the person. So there's always a way that you can balance an individual with their health, even if you're not necessarily addressing a specific issue. You can still make them more generally healthy.
And you combine this kinesiology treatment with advice on nutrition, and what else do you use?
I use batch flowers all the time for emotional components. The batch flowers are marvellous for children because they like to take away a little bottle of something that they can use that's theirs. I also give all clients some degree of homework, whether it's emotional techniques or affirmations. Certainly for anxiety clients, there's a lot of work that needs doing to reframe their beliefs about the worries that they have. So rather than just tapping out a sort of a positive affirmation, there's a lot of work that we do to actually eliminate the negative first before we replace it with something positive. I use magnets sometimes. I don't use crystals a huge amount, but if I get a client come to me who's already got an interest in crystals and knows more than I do, then I'm happy to test those and for them to go away and incorporate that sort of element in their own approach to their health, if you like.
So you use magnets as well, you said?
You can use tiny magnets sometimes that you can sew into the clothes, and also I've got a supplier who makes tiny crystals that you can sew into children's clothes, which is great for children, for eczema, for example. And I think we're all subject to a huge amount of electromagnetic stress that some people find crystals particularly helpful for, or one component of the balance, if you like.
Fascinating stuff. Linda, if somebody wants to become a kinesiologist, and specifically around systematic kinesiology training, to get training around that, where can they go? Is there a professional body? Can you recommend anybody?
Yeah, the body that I belong to is the Association of Systematic Kinesiologists.
Yeah.
So that would be www.systematic-kinesiology.co.uk, and there are a list of all of the professional systematic kinesiologists on there who belong to the association, and there's also a list of the training schools that if people are interested in training in it rather than just receiving their own balance and treatment, then they can also go to that.
Right, I've got that website now on the screen.
That's exactly it.
Brilliant. And if people want to get hold of you personally, if they want to know, you also provide training, is that right?
I do training, foundation and diploma level.
Okay.
So my website is lindabelcherhealthcare.co.uk.
Yeah.
That's it. And all the contact details are on there, but simple email lindabelcherhealthcare@outlook.com.
At outlook.com. I'm not going to flash that on the screen because
it's on the website.
Yeah. Okay. I got it wrong here, so I'm not going to flash that up. That's been really interesting. I've learned a lot out of this because my impression was write something on a piece of paper and it's just the magic behind it. But I'm now convinced that there's actually a lot more science behind it than I ever thought. So that's been really interesting. Thanks, Linda.
Good.
I appreciate your input today.
Thank you.
And speaking of the mind and how the mind can help us overcome things and how all this fascinating stuff fits together. Next week, I've got a very interesting topic, and it's about a very personal healing journey. The show is called I'm Afraid It Can Be Cured, How I Conquered Fibromyalgia. And my guest is Elizabeth Coetzee, who ended up in a wheelchair with a very bad prognosis, and today she's up and running, she's got her own business, and there is absolutely no sign of this allegedly incurable disease. So we'll look at her personal journey.
Brilliant.
Thank you, and I will meet you again next week.
Thank you.
Goodbye.